Loren, and I wanted to do this story time because I've noticed that there's been a lot of teen moms lately, and I wanted to share my story and hopefully help someone. And I know when I was pregnant, this helped me a lot, hearing other people's stories, so I wanted to share mine. And I also got a lot of questions on this, and I feel like it'll be easier just to make a video and people come watch it rather than, you know. So I'll start out by, again, my name is Loren. I am 16 years old. I have a daughter. She actually just turned 3 months, and her name is Lola Ray. Okay, so it all started off with, of course, me and her father. And, you know, we've been together for, it's about to be 3 years. And when I found out I was pregnant with my daughter, we were together for, I think it was like 2 years. Yeah. And, you know, obviously I wasn't being as safe as I was supposed to. So obviously there was consequences for that. And when I found out, I was still in high school, a sophomore in high school, and he was a senior in high school. So age difference, but our parents approved, and you know, that was not, we weren't hiding it. So I get bladder infections really easily, so I thought I was just getting another UTI. And usually I take like urine relief pills and the cranberry pills so I could like take care of it on my own. But with that being said, it wasn't going away on its own. So I made an appointment at my high school to get so I could get on antibiotics. And when I went to the doctors, they tested my urine, they asked me some questions, you know, asked me when my last menstrual cycle was, and this, that, and the other. And she took my urine, you know, it took about like 10 minutes. She came back in and she told me it came out positive. So when she told me it came out positive, my automatic thought was like, yeah, I have a bladder infection. Like, I already knew that. Can I have my antibiotics? I could go. Then she like kind of was like looking at me like a little odd, and I was like, what, you know? And she told me I was pregnant. I wasn't, not saying I wasn't, I was surprised, but it wasn't like, oh, how did this happen? Because obviously I knew how it happened. So I was just like in shock. I'm kind of a weird person, so like when something's sad, I laugh, and when something's funny, I'm like, my emotions are like really messed up. So I smiled, and it wasn't because she asked me if I planned it, and I was like, no, but I guess my reaction was like that. And then I like started to tear up, and then she told me she was gonna give me a few minutes to process this, and then she was gonna come back in so we could talk. So in that time, I called Lola's father, and I FaceTimed him, and I told him, and I was like crying, you know. And he was kind of shocked, you know. He was silent, and he started tearing up too. But his family was in the other room, so he didn't really want to talk about it too much. So we hung up, whatever. Talk about this later. She came back in the room, and you know, she kind of explained to me my options, but then she also said that she was gonna give me 2 weeks. And we're gonna follow back up to see what I decided. At that point, I really didn't know. I knew in the back of the head what I wanted to do, but I had, you know, to lay everything out on the table and think about it. And I was scared, and mind you, I didn't get to go home and like process this. I had to go back to school as a regular day, and I was very scared. But in a way, I was very excited, just because what happened with my mother, I always said like I would be an amazing mother. Like, my goal in life was to be something that I never had. So I was very happy in that matter. But I was very scared. I was only 15 years old at the time. I was still in high school. Her dad was about to go to college. My dad. I didn't want to disappoint my family, so I was very scared. There's a rush of emotions, and I feel like once they told me I was pregnant, everything just like hit me. So it was very hard. The first person I told was, besides her father, was my mom's mom. And when I told her, you know, she wasn't, obviously she was probably upset, but she didn't show it. She like told me about the stuff, like how hard it is to raise a child, how it is to raise a child in New Mexico, and like all the statistics and everything. And I did take that into consideration, but she was also very supportive on whatever I did. So I took everything that everyone was telling me, well, her, you know, into consideration, thinking about all the stuff I've looked up. I didn't want to be a teen mom. I had plans to be a nurse. Like, you know, I was in AP and honors classes, you know, and I didn't want to give that up because I had, you know, I hold myself to a high standard, and, you know, just what people would say, and, you know, there's a lot. So I did also tell one of my friends, one of my close friends at the time. I won't say her name because I don't know if she's going to be okay with that, but she was very supportive with me. She was very nice. You know, kept my secret, didn't put me down. And sorry. So that night I went home and I started acting very distant from my family, and I didn't really want to be around my dad because, and my mom, my stepmom, but I consider her my mom. I didn't want to lie to them and look at them in their face. So I really stayed quiet, and I went to my room, and I remember they gave me a proof of pregnancy paper, and I just kept looking at it and thinking about everything. If I was gonna keep her, well, at the time I didn't know if it was boy or girl. Yeah, so I was very scared, very, very scared. So I remember I didn't eat dinner that night, and I was looking up, like, at the rewind, my doctor told me about the types, kind of like of abortion, like the pill, because I was still early along, but I could take the pill and it'll, like, just, the baby will be gone, or I guess like a term 2 abortion, I don't know. So I did look those up, and I researched everything, and my heart and everything just told me no, and it played a role in my religion. And so, yeah, and I just couldn't do it. And her father didn't want me to have an abortion, but he did tell me whatever I wanted to do, he would support me no matter what. So I did feel like it was his choice in a way, but at the end of the day, it's my body. I could do what I want. So his opinion really didn't matter to me. Like, if he said have an abortion, if I didn't want to, I wasn't gonna have one. No matter what, he could leave me, whatever. This is my decision. Well, our decision, but my decision. And so came back. So I didn't tell really nobody. I think about 2 weeks later. Yeah, 2 weeks later, you know, still kept to myself. And then I went to my appointment that she had scheduled me to decide what I wanted to do. So I did decide to keep my baby. And from there, it all just really started to hit me like a bus. Like, all these, all the responsibilities, you know. My mindset really changed, because if you know me, you know how I am. You know, I am very outspoken. I really don't, not that I don't care what people, I really don't care what people have to say. I'm very mean. Well, I was very mean. If someone, you know, had a problem with me, it'd be handled. So like everything from there just changed. You know, I was becoming a mother, and not only did I have to care about myself, but I had to care for my child, and that there was something inside of me that I had to look out for, excuse me. And it all just changed. So my doctor told me that my due date would be January 12th, 2019. They set me up for my first ultrasound. And I will show that here. From that moment, I fell in love with my daughter. I cherish every little single moment of her. And even though she was little, that didn't matter. And so I started tracking my pregnancy. And I think at that time I was 7 weeks. So she was like the size of shrimp. But I remember I loved to see her growth. I loved to see when she was like, I remember when she was a blueberry, an avocado, like a squash, and like all that stuff, and a watermelon. And when I didn't want to tell my parents. I was very scared. So I did keep it a secret until I was 13 weeks. And that was hard for me. Very hard. I regret it because during that period of time I was very depressed because I didn't want to lie, but at the same time I was afraid. So I kept it to myself and the people that I told. And I also didn't want to say anything because, you know, from your first week to your 13th week, it's a very crucial time. Once you hit 13 weeks, you're kind of out of like the scary zone, like the miscarriage zone. So that's when I also decided I wanted to tell them. But funny thing, when I got very bad sickness all day. And at the time I lived with my grandmother, and I couldn't like get out of bed. I couldn't get out of bed. If I did, I couldn't stand for very long because I would throw up. At that time I was eating so healthy because like I couldn't hold down like fast food. I couldn't hold down any food, period. But if I was gonna throw up, I wanted to eat like strawberries or like just fruit in general. So like when I threw it up, it didn't taste so bad, because when I did eat fast food and I threw it up, it literally tastes like poison. And when I say poison, I'm not literally like, I literally mean poison. Like it tastes like just pure chemicals. It was disgusting. So of course I tried to be healthy, you know, because I didn't want to gain a lot of weight after I had my daughter, you know, and be like gross and fat. But that didn't last long. But I was very sick, and I think I was like 11 weeks or 10 weeks. Yeah, it was not very long after I found out. But I had to go. I went to I think it was Father's Day, a Father's Day party, and I believe so, or it was my dad's, I don't know, one of the two, but it was something in the summertime. And we went to a party, and that day I was feeling actually good. And the next day, that same night, I slept over at my auntie's house. And I was sick the next morning, and I knew what was wrong. But like my cousins, they just thought I was sick because I didn't want to tell them either, because, you know, just didn't know what to say. And so sick. I actually went with my cousin to go get a tattoo, and both of them were with me. And I remember I was throwing up so much. I was just so sick. I couldn't hold anything down. I literally was on the side of the road and I was throwing up. And like I couldn't take it anymore. I wasn't holding anything down. So they took me to the hospital, and I still didn't tell them. My poor cousin thought I had like hypothermia and like all these things because of my symptoms, but I still didn't have the balls to tell them I was pregnant the whole drive. We got to the hospital and they took my urine or whatever, and I still didn't tell them about me being pregnant, but I said, does someone want to come with me to the bathroom? When we got to the hospital, of course, and they checked me in, and the one who ended up going with me was Heaven. And oh my god, I was scared. I remember I was on the toilet and I was pretending to pee. Like I peed and then I was sitting there forever and I was like, it's not coming out. And I finally had the nerve to tell her I was pregnant after like 10 minutes of being in the bathroom. She was like, why didn't you tell me? Not a little upset, obviously, because I didn't tell her, but... And so I told her, we went back into the room. She told my cousin. And then, you know, the doctors came in after, and like they already knew. And so they told me, you know, they talked to me. That was what's wrong with me. They gave me an IV to get, so I could get hydrated. And then they gave me nausea pills. So, with that being said, they found out. My insurance bill was billed to my house. My mom had opened the bill, called me and asked me why I went to the hospital. I knew that was gonna happen. Like I had a gut feeling like something like that was gonna happen to me, and it did. So I remember I hung up the phone when she asked me, and then I texted her and I told her. I was so scared, like so freaking scared. And she was freaked out, but she was very supportive. She was mad, you know, all the things. And she told me, we need to tell your dad. So that same weekend, it was whose birthday? We had a party. I think it was my dad's birthday. Not sure what it was, but they asked. I slept over that night and I was scared. I was so scared. Next morning, the plan was to come to my grandparents' house and we were going to tell them. We went out to eat that morning, and I remember I was so sick to my stomach, and I don't think it was because I was sick, because I was already past that point, but it was because I was so scared. Remember, I couldn't hold anything down. Well, not hold anything down. I wasn't eating, but like I just, like, my stomach was like in a knot, like literally. And I remember getting to my grandma's house, and I remember I'm like, oh, so scared, so freaking scared. I'm sweating, like my hands are even sweating thinking about it. And we have an RV, and we usually like, so they wanted to like go in there and just like open up the windows and stuff. And that's when my stepmom said, like, let's go tell him. Oh, I was scared. And we sat down and, like, you know, talked for a while, just like a normal talk. And then all of a sudden, just like, we need to talk. And I remember, like, I had a chapstick in my hand, and I was just like pinching the shit out, like grabbing the shit out of it and like twisting it. Kept taking the cap off, and I was so scared. I remember, like, I just kept pinching myself and like biting my cheeks. And she's like, Lynn has something to tell you. And my dad, like, he kept like opening drawers, cleaning stuff out. And I just couldn't say it. Like, my grandma, grandpa, my dad, and my mom were in there, and I could not say it for the life of me. Like, there was like a fist going down my throat. So she started explaining it, saying about the hospital and all that. And then my dad said, let me guess, she's pregnant. I was like, shit. And everyone stayed quiet. And when my mom was like, yup. And I was like, ugh. Very scared. And I literally almost shit my pants. And so I just remember I looked at my dad and whatever, and he kind of just like, he like shook at his head and he sat down. And, you know, I thought my dad was gonna be very upset with me and not talk to me, but I was wrong. I was very wrong. And he looked at me, and I remember I like looked at, and I was like about to cry, and I was scared. And he gave me a hug and he told me, if anyone could do this, it's you. You're strong and I love you and I'm gonna help you. And I remember, and to this day, like forever, I will always cherish my dad for that, because he didn't have to do that. I was 15. Well, I just turned 16. He didn't have to be nice to me. He could have disowned me, not helped me. And so I remember I just hugged him, and then me and my dad grew a different type of bond. So that was how I told my parents. Now fast forward on how my pregnancy was. So after that ultrasound, you know, they don't give you another ultrasound until you're like 20 weeks along, to find out the gender and make sure like all the limbs and everything's right. So 20 weeks came. Very supportive family. Didn't really tell nobody yet because I wanted to wait till I hit my 20 weeks till I found out the gender of the baby, then I could announce it. Oh, so I found out I was pregnant in April. No, towards in May. I don't know, I can't remember. But I remember oh, so school ended, that year ended, and I decided to go to a new high school, which was New Futures High School, because I was a mom. They'd be flexible with me. I got maternity leave. You know, it was different. It was faster paced. I could graduate faster. And I decided to move. So, different school. No one really knew, besides people I told. And of course, people had big mouths or not. But, so came 20 weeks and I found out she was a girl. I was so happy. I will insert some pictures right here. I was so happy when I found out. I really thought it was a boy. Because my baby's father, there was all boys, and you know, just I was gonna be a boy. But it meant a lot to me to have a girl because she was the 6th generation of a girl. It was my grandma, my mom's mom, my mom. Oh, my grandma's, my great-great-grandma, my grandma, my great-grandma, my grandma, my mom, and me. So she would be the 6th girl, the first. So like it meant a lot to me for her to be a girl. And when I found out a girl, I was so happy. Like when I came out the room, my family was waiting outside in the waiting room, and I had made 2 signs, and the sign that she was, I was gonna hold it up, and my family said they already knew just by the smile on my face, but like if it was a boy, I would be that ecstatic too. So I found out she was a girl, and oh my god, from there it was bows, pink, tutus, and I just found love because she was my best friend from the start anyway. But I was so happy. And I think I hit 32 weeks. No. Yeah, no, 30. Because, yeah, 32 weeks. I got put on bed rest. I did have a very hard pregnancy. I think just because I was young, my body was not fully developed and ready for that. I have 2 back plates that are herniated, so my back hurt. I started to gain a lot of weight very fast. I was not being healthy. So I was in a lot of pain. And I get steroid shots in my back to help strengthen my back plates, and while I was pregnant, I couldn't get those, so I was in a lot of pain. And put on bed rest, and then I think around 36 weeks, no, 34 weeks, I had hypertension. So it was like on and off, an up and down situation. And I'll actually tell you guys why I found out, how I found out I had, what is it called? Preeclampsia. And that's a whole nother story time. I literally, I hate McDonald's. Anyway, I did have to get induced. That was the hardest thing I've ever been through in my whole entire life. My whole entire life. It was hard and stressful. And I'll do a story time on that and how being induced and doing a labor without epidural was too, if you guys want. Hard. But now, closing off, my daughter is just turned 3 months yesterday. She's beautiful. My best friend. Her dad loves her. I love her to death. And we're just a cute little family. Of course, it's not perfect. There is bumps in the road. Having a child is lack of sleep, and it puts a lot in a relationship. I will say that. Being young and still trying to finish school, not having like a career, him getting out of high school and not being able to go to Arizona to college like he wanted to, and having to stay here and support us, it put a huge toll on our relationship. So we had to work and we still work very hard to try and keep everything going. Yeah, but that was my story time on kind of how everything. But if you guys want to know how my labor and delivery was, if you want to meet my daughter and see pictures of her, let me know in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe, and yeah, bye.